Every woman, every man, join the caravan of love. Stand up,
Stand up, stand up, stand up.
stand up. I'm your brother. I'm your brother. Come on, rumble. And a 1, 2, 3.
JB, check your audio.
Table.
What's poppin', my
Good to
friend?
see everybody. Well, as Nick always says, welcome my family, my friends. What's popping?
What's poppin'? It's great to be here with you guys. This is a great Thursday. There's a lot to talk about.
Yep. I'm here with my brilliant sister and my Nick. You look a little light skinned today. Have you been staying inside?
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that. I'm changed color all the time. That's how I am.
All right, cool. He's a chameleon. All right, everybody. Just to let you guys know, the RBN Roundtable is every single month. So at the last Thursday of the month, so you guys can always tune into that. Be sure to go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps us out very much. So thank you so much, and good to see all of you here. If you have not already, have you considered sharing and subscribing as well? Please go ahead and do that too. Also, if you guys would like to join our mailing list, you can join our mailing list at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever we have clips or we go live, just like this one. You guys got a notification about a half an hour ago. And also, if you guys would like to, you guys can always reach out to us at revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. If you guys have any news stories or any words of encouragement, you guys have that there. Sabs, my sister from another mister. What's good?
What's going on, JB? I know it's
Mhm.
so much to discuss. I was just telling before we went live, I was just telling JB and Nick, it's a different thing every day. Every day something is breaking, something crazy happened.
Yeah, remember what I told you guys last year? I told you guys last year I wasn't even that down with covering the election like that. Like, I wasn't doing a lot of live breaking streams talking about Trump versus Kamala because I told you guys what happened during this election is like the most boring thing that's going to happen here soon. I told you guys next year, 2025 had the formula for shit hitting the fan across the world. 2027 is going to be another date because that's where a lot of people are anticipating the clash with Taiwan. But 2025 is the calendar marking. This is when Israel feel like they was emboldened to attack Iran and they was quickly humbled. And I know you guys are seeing it too. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. I'm very excited for this to release. I had Shama on yesterday, and she mentioned how she want to have a come back on RBN. I think we're gonna have a regular series every few weeks with me and Shama. But there's like a lot of people waking up to the corruption of our system. There's a lot of conversations that are happening between people who usually wouldn't be talking to each other because of the situations that we're in. And I recently was on Jake Shields' show, and it was surreal. I don't know if you guys know who Jake Shields is. He's a former UFC fighter, former Trump supporter. He's been causing a lot of controversy with ADL, and they've been calling him an anti-Semite because he's been one of these people who used to be a Republican who's now questioning Israel. So not a lot of right wingers like have the nerve to invite me on. So I give Jake Shields a lot of props. We had a conversation. I think it's going to release on Sunday, and it was very interesting because I got him to agree on stuff like defund the police. I was like, hey, y'all, let me have a conversation about that. And he was like, yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. We obviously agreed a lot with Israel. I was We had a huge agreement on healthcare. And I'm like, bro, you can label yourself however you want, but a lot of these people are labeling themselves as on the right, but they agree with healthcare. They want to bring the war machine to heel. And this is why they don't want people to have these conversations, because Jake Shields is considered someone to be on the far right. That's what he's on the show. He on the far right. Nick is on the far left. So let's see what we can agree on. And we end up agreeing on like 90% of things. He agreed with the police being too well funded. We agreed to too much war. We agreed that the culture war is a distraction, that so the capitalist class can divide the workers. We explain how we want better for the white community, the black community. Like, this is like, we come to agreement when we have conversations, and I'm seeing that happening a lot more right now. Sorry to go on that riff, but I want to ask both of you guys. Like, have you guys been noticing this? I'm seeing and I'm glad to see it. The duopoly game is starting to die because people are, especially with Trump betraying his base such in an open way he has been. What do you guys think?
So, as far as I'm concerned, it's welcome, to see how many people are actually going up against Donald Trump. And it's like being a mountain climber, and you realize that the goal to actually is to get to that mountaintop, and you see a whole bunch of people at the bottom, and you see the way forward, and then you're just trying to yell to people like, hey, go this way. And everybody's like, what? I can't hear you. And they finally find the way, and you see them on the way up, and you get happy because you see, yes, now they're climbing the mountain and they're going to reach us soon. And so that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah, I'm begging left organizers to log off and talk to people. There's so much factionalism, and there's gonna be people mad when we announce this. People like, you went on Jake Shields' show. Don't you know he tweeted this in 2000? Like, I'm done with this lib nonsense, guys. Like, I'm about talking to people no matter if you agree with them. Let's see what we can form agreements and coalitions on. Right now, we have a historic opportunity to build an anti-Zionist coalition, because there are people like Jake Shields. They are done. There are people we have cultural differences from, where they see dead babies and that's it. That's line in the sand. These are good people who don't want to support Zionist monsters. And when you talk to them, we can have a uniting line. There's a part, I can't wait till you guys see it. I was talking shit with Jake, and I was saying, like, wouldn't it be great that after Zionism is destroyed, we realize that we took out a common enemy and we come together because of it? And we was like, yeah, that would be an amazing. Like, can you just imagine that? Like, yeah, let's imagine something like that happening. And that's why I think we are in a unique opportunity to do so. JB, I'll pass it back to you. I just implore everyone, and that's another message I sent in when I was talking about mutual aid. Like, stop allowing the capitalist class to divide us. Like, our communities purposely broken. Highways was built right through our communities to keep us away from each other. That's why I'm looking forward to being with the chair, Fred Hampton Jr. next month. I'm very pushing hard for people, especially in this moment. In this moment right now, this is where we should be pushing mutual aid and getting involved more than ever, period, right? But that's my little spill, my monologue in the beginning, I guess. What's popping, my friends? Yes, I got a lot on my mind. I got a lot on my mind.
Yeah, and you've been putting out a lot of content too, talking about all the things that have been breaking. I'm
taking this weekend off, man. There's been a lot going on, man.
Yeah, yeah. You need to be like a Kit Kat bar. You need to give me a break. Give me a break. That's honestly how I feel. Yeah, but yeah. I'm just like, damn, Nick, slow down. But it's just it is a welcome sight to see. Sabs, your thoughts on what Nick was asking earlier?
Yeah, I don't know who Jake is. I'll have to look him up. But yeah, I mean, like, I will say, I think more people are waking up. There's some people who did vote for Donald Trump that have reached out to me via email and said they do not agree with what they did.
Yeah, that's Savvy. Just for FYI, Jake Shields is a former Trump supporter who's done. He's done with the duopoly now.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, some people have said to me the breaking point was obviously, Gaza, Iran, like the war issues, but also, believe it or not, the economy. And I have to do a deep dive into this on Sunday when I go live. I don't know if a lot of people know, but we are in a serious economic trouble right now. And a lot of people aren't reporting on it, but the numbers just came out. And see all this theater that's been happening from Donald Trump. It's kind of turned, I feel like in a way, it's kind of turned people's attention away from the things we were talking about before, those domestic issues about the economy and the prices being too high. So you don't hear as many people talking about it as much now because Donald Trump has been doing so much on foreign policy. So a lot of our attention has been diverted in that direction. But I just got those numbers from Eric today, and the job numbers from Eric as well. So it's not good. And it's actually worse than it was under Biden in November and December of 2024. And I think a lot of people just aren't paying attention because, you know, he's been doing all this crazy crap, basically trying to start World War III. And that's kind of taking people's eyes off of what's happening with the economy. So I'm going to do a deep dive into that on Sunday, because I think people are like, oh, we're not talking about the prices or anything. I just to remind people, the prices are still high. Mm-hmm. We still have the economic situation is now worse than it was at the end of 2024, according to the data. And like I said, there have been people who have reached out to me. I'm not gonna say their names because they don't want to be named, but they reached out to me privately and told me that they regret voting for Donald Trump because they voted for him because he said this, you know, he's going to be America first, that type of thing. And those things aren't happening when you look at the economy. When we get into, and hopefully I'll be done with this towards the end of July. We're getting a lot of footage. But one of the reasons why I wanted to make that documentary about people being physically removed from their neighborhoods is because a lot of times when we talk about gentrification, it's done in so a way like people were priced out, like they increased the rents and so they had to move elsewhere. But I think what people don't realize, like even today, and we are post redlining, even today, there are cities that are actively removing Black people from their neighborhoods via eminent domain. That is happening today. So I think people need to see this. So when I push back on Black Trump supporters, people who voted for him, and I say, what has Donald Trump done policy-wise that has benefited the Black community? It's crickets. Because like I said, that was all just an act. He wasn't going to do anything for you. He wasn't going to do anything for working class people either. So he runs on these things because he knows that those issues are popular and it'll help him win, but he doesn't intend on actually implementing those policies. So I hope more people start to wake up.
Yeah. Just to add as well, and I think it's a couple weeks, the National Low Income Housing Coalition's Out of Reach program, their report will actually be out. This actually shows like how much will it cost as far as cost of living you have to make to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the United States. Of course, it was devastating in 2024. We've been using those numbers as of late, but the 2025 numbers are about to come out soon.
It increases every year. So every July, that report is released. If you want to know what you really need to earn as an hourly wage to afford just a 2-bedroom apartment in your state, JB and I always go over that because we are nowhere near where we should be. And even when you look at some of these policies, some of these progressive policies, I know we're going to talk about Zohran when Professor Zenkus joins, that doesn't even go far enough. We are way behind, like far, far, far behind. So I don't want to hear, and I've been very clear to people about this when I gave a talk about this a couple months ago. I don't want to hear about a $15 minimum wage anymore. There's no state in this country, according to that report, where you can live off a $15 minimum wage. You can't. So we're far, far past that.
Yeah, this is what we've been telling reformists ever since we started RBN, correct? Like we've been past the point of reform. What do you guys talk? Do you guys know what the decline is? We are in the decline. Like we're in the Chinese century. We are reaping the We are paying the consequences of neoliberalism ravishing the Western world for the last 60 years. We're in the decline, and we have two choices: Marxism, revolution, or fascism. And that's another reason why I've been pushing mutual aid, and that's why I was pushing with Jake. Like the system has already failed. We need to get our head in the game. We need to already start forming our own government. We need to already start building our own mutual aid societies. We need to start holding these people accountable. And there's no playing around with these systems. These capitalists, why do you think there's never ending war? Why do you guys think they're willing to wage war and risk it all against Russia and China? Because the decline is now, and they have no plan to get out of it. What has Donald Trump built? I was asking MAGA this the other day. What has Donald Trump built? MAGA canceled the high-speed rail program. Meanwhile, China is releasing, I read an article how they have 127 different infrastructure programs that they approve every single week. Like every week they we got new ideas. We're re-innovating China. We have this new infrastructure program that will be done by the end of the year. And every single city is being remade from the top down. They are completely showing humanity what the future looks like. Meanwhile, the clowns at America First, what they say before the election: we're going to invest in America. We're going to compete with China. What do? Start cutting social spending. Started cutting infrastructure spending, and then they started spending $1 trillion on the military, sending more money to ICE, more money to the police. MAGA and right wing, how is it going to make America great again? Like, these are the kinds of things I will explain to Jake, and this is why I like to explain to my right wing friends, which is why we should be down to talk to these people. Because anyone who's good faith, even if you are a fiscal conservative, explain to me how that makes sense. Explain to me how that's a coherent economic model to invest 100% in war and police spending, waging war against your own people instead of infrastructure projects, instead of education. And right there, I was explaining, and this is what the messaging that we need to tell people. I was telling Jake, as Marxists, we are builders. We want people who work to matter. We want people to take pride in their work. We want people to have a social cohesion, because we have this grand ambition how we're going to build our society, put people to work. You understand? Go ahead, JB.
Well, just to add to your point, really, I wanted to add this as well, because I know you're talking about China and you're talking about a nation that's comparable. Let's go a little bit smaller. Let's talk about Burkina Faso right now. President Ibrahim Traore is actually doing a free housing infrastructure build in his country right now. If Ibrahim Traore can do that in Burkina Faso, imagine what we can do here in the United States. Donald Trump could be doing that for millions of Americans who are living below the poverty line right now, which include a ton of white Americans that are living in squalor in this country. And the thing is like, does he actually care about him? Donald Trump doesn't care about white people. I'm just saying it right here, right now. He doesn't care about white people. He doesn't care about any of us. So let me tell you right now, when we say that there are things that could be done, if an African nation like Burkina Faso, which has been ravaged by the West, is now building up housing infrastructure, free housing infrastructure, not affordable, free housing infrastructure, imagine what we can do here in this country. But yet we want to glad hand the latest billionaire that can get his fourth or fifth yacht. And that is crazy. It is ass backwards. And so Donald Trump just left y'all in the dust.
Yeah, that's what I was explaining to
like Biden.
Sorry, JB.
No, please go ahead.
But that's what I was explaining, and I was using all my best. I can't wait to the video. I think he said it's gonna come out Sunday. And I was explaining to Jay Shields, because if you guys don't know, he's a former UFC fighter, pretty big right-wing base. I was playing like, man, if you're pouring white, you should be just as mad as I am. Can you imagine like your country stealing trillions of dollars from Africa, South America, making their wealth through ill-gotten means, and then they still leave you out? Are you not pissed? And he's like, yeah, dude, that's great. Like, these are the things, these are class messaging that works across cultures, which is why they try to keep us separated, right? But go ahead, Savvy and JB. You guys always love chatting with you guys. Always like to say.
I was just gonna say, there's a show, Breaking Point's whole model it is focusing on doing just that, right? Like, Crystal Ball talks to conservatives all the time. Host a show with conservatives. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's just kind of funny. If we do that, we're like bad people. We're the enemy, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know people gonna get mad, but I don't really care. I already tell people I don't really care about if they get mad or not who I talk to. If you watch the show, there's no way people think it was a worthwhile conversation. Like I got Jay Shields at least. I don't know how their audience is gonna react. We see. But I got Jay Shields to agree that funding the police state is ridiculous. And I appeal to his masculinity. He's a UFC fighter. I'm like, bro, why do we need this nanny state? The fuck? He's like, yeah, man, it makes like this is how we're supposed to be talking to people. I'm not a part of this sheltered left. Like this thing that you see a lot of like these East Coast type people where they used to be around liberals, so they can't even comprehend have a conversation with people who think differently from them. Meanwhile, I live in Missouri, guys. I sold cars in Kansas. Like I'm surrounded by conservatives. This whole thing about me having this left echo chamber, this RBN thing, you guys feel like that's new for me. Like this is new. I'm used to being surrounded by people who are more socially conservative. If you're not used to talking to these people, you're not a real revolutionary. The people that I can't see this person if you don't support, if you have this opinion, you're not a real revolutionary in my opinion. But JB, Savvy, anything else you guys want to add?
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, how are you supposed to grow working class unity without talking to the working class? And at the same time, that also allows people to be exposed to people who that may be different from them, and then it helps them to be able to get rid of those prejudices and bigotry that they may have towards a group that they rarely ever get in contact with as well. So I think that's an important piece of it as well too. And so, when it comes to being able to have this dialogue with people, and I'm not talking about that speaking to the most extreme versions. I'm talking about people who may have, certain ideas that they have misconceptions of because they believe they drank the Kool-Aid of, the predator class, right? Who they told them who their enemy is, when in reality their enemy is the one that wears, a $5,000 suit and sits in a boardroom. It's not the person who looks a little bit different, who loves a little bit different, who identifies a little bit different from you. Those are not your enemy, or somebody who, whether they came here, whether their ancestors were born here, or whether they came here across an imaginary border. The thing is that it's about coming together. But the problem is that, we listen to people who tell others who our enemy is. And that's really a division tactic by the capitalist class in order to be able to keep us divided. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad that duopoly is failing, because it's showing that facade is it's withering away as the scales are falling from the eyes of the people. So that's one thing I'm actually pretty happy about. And I feel like we're in a chorus of people who are saying that. And so now a lot of people are starting to realize that, yeah, this is not the way. The Democrat and Republican parties are not the way, because they all get paid by the same people, the same billionaires, the same oligarchs. So we're realizing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a breath of fresh air to see people. Like, I don't mean on social media. I mean, like in real life, like seeing people in real life saying like, oh my gosh, I think that both parties are screwing us over. It feels good to hear more people say that now. Cause I feel like I didn't hear that from many just a couple years ago, right? When people tried to make the case for Biden. So it goes to show you that people are waking up. So that's always a good thing. But I will say also, even when having those conversations, for me, it's important to have respect, because regardless if we can agree on this one thing or not, I'm not going to put myself in a situation with someone that's going to be disrespectful. That's for sure. So that's my take on that. And I'd say that to anybody that's watching that may be conservative. Like, you do have to keep in mind that, especially for me, there's going to have to be respect, because some of these things that have been said to people online and in person, no, like that's no, let's come together and build and organize and try to do da da da. No, not when there's disrespect. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Because the thing is like, if you want to actually build coalitions, there has to be some mutual respect there, because you got to realize we're both the working class. Like, that person who may be very religious, who, you know, goes to church every single Sunday, prays every day, they deserve some respect, but so does the person who also may identify as a different gender than where they were born, and they may dress in ways that is different than, you know, the gender that they present as. They need respect too, because they're all workers, and we all deserve that respect. And so I think that's also an important part. You can't unite with people who you feel like your safety is threatened by, you know, and that's another thing that, you know, we also have to recognize too.
I think Professor Zenkus is here.
Cool. All right, everybody. So we're going to be bringing in our guest, as always. Just to let you guys know, we are going to be talking about this subject right here. We'll be talking with Professor Anthony Zenkus, and we're going to be talking about Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani. And so his recent win. It's good to have our comrade back, Professor Anthony Zenkus. Good to see you.
Hey, good to be seen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. I think I need to give you guys a new photo. I look so dorky in that photo, but it's not about that. Anyway, look, how's everybody? Hi, Nick.
Dorks are always good with us here at RBN. Look, I'm a dork, right? I'm a dork. I'm a geek. So hey, it's all good.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on, man. It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah, you guys have been doing some excellent work. I've been following you. I didn't get to see Nick's piece on the positives and negatives of the Zohran win yet, but I'm going to be checking that out tonight. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting times we're living in.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to do first is, if any of you haven't heard, if you guys been living under a rock, or you know, the corporate dictator class has been having you work so much that you haven't got a chance to check the news, let's get in on this so that everybody's brought up to speed. This is what happened as of Tuesday, and so we're going to share this with you, and then we will talk about Zohran Mamdani on the other side. So I got to learn how to pronounce his name correctly, but we'll get to it.
Now to the election stunner overnight. A 33-year-old state lawmaker who was little known a couple of months ago, defeating nearly a dozen candidates, including former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary for New York City mayor. Our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott, is standing by with the potential larger political implications. But first, Aaron Katersky had the rise of Zohran Mamdani. Good morning, Aaron.
And good morning to you, Michael. From a crowded field, Democratic primary voters here made the surprise choice to back a young, charismatic socialist who promised to make New York City more affordable, signaling they're ready for a break from the past.
My friends, we have done it.
Overnight, a seismic shift in New York City politics and a possible harbinger for the Democratic Party. 33-year-old Democratic socialist upstart Zohran Mamdani declaring victory in the Democratic primary for mayor, defeating nearly a dozen other candidates, including former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez campaigning with Mamdani, a state assemblyman.
New York City is a town of the working class.
Energizing younger voters.
We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford. A city where they can do more than just struggle. One where those who toil in the night can enjoy the fruits of their labor in the day.
Born in Uganda, Mamdani moved to New York City with his family at age 7 and would be New York's first Muslim mayor. But he has faced criticism over his anti-Israel rhetoric, lack of experience, and how he would pay for an agenda that includes free mass transit and a rent freeze on affordable housing. Mamdani took down frontrunner Andrew Cuomo, who had resigned as governor after more than a dozen women accused him of sexual harassment. Cuomo conceded the primary race, but left open the possibility of running in the general election, likely as an independent.
I want to applaud the Assemblyman for a really smart and good and impactful campaign. Tonight is his night. He deserved it. He won.
Mamdani will also face incumbent Eric Adams, who's running for re-election as an independent and skipped the primary after a federal corruption indictment was dismissed by the Trump administration. Adams has become close to the president, raising questions among New York City Democrats.
And Democrats nationally are now watching to see whether the nation's largest city is about to lurch to the left at a time the party is torn over what it stands for and how to answer President Trump.
So that's basically what is going on as of Tuesday. And I could say this. There's some of us on the left who were very jovial over the victory of Zohran Mamdani. There are some of us as well who are also very skeptical of Zohran Mamdani. So Professor Zenkus, if you can give us your reasons as to why you're very happy about his win, and why we should not be skeptical if you feel that way.
Well, I think we should always be skeptical, right? But what I think the positives are, and I think there's kind of three things that stand out. And obviously, having somebody who still unapologetically supports BDS win New York is a big deal. And so I think that on the issue of criticizing the genocide, the occupation, and the apartheid that Israel perpetrates on the Palestinian people, he's been steadfast in that. And so he hasn't done that just as a candidate. He's done it as a sitting member of the State Assembly in New York. And so there's a little, because I keep hearing comparisons, and I understand why are we cautious, because I know I was excited when AOC won, and then within kind of like with her second year in office, all of a sudden we started seeing signs, and then by 2 years it was like, oh, it's same old bullshit. And I get that, but there are some significant differences between the mayor of New York and Congress that I think are worth understanding about why I am hopeful, cautiously, that this will be good for the people of New York, and I think a good example for other places as far as other people who might be able to run like this. One is, so the mayor of New York has a lot more power than even other mayors in other cities. There's a lot he can do on his own. Some of the things he wants to do require approval from the state legislature. So he can't just make buses free, because the MTA, which runs the bus service in New York, is that's funded partly, I think it's like 50% or something, by the state. So they would have to approve it. Other than that, there are things he can do right away. He can do a rent freeze for 2 million rent stabilized apartments, which, look, I know people that are leaving New York. They're not living in Manhattan. They can't afford it, but they're living in Astoria. They're living in Long Island City. And these places used to be cheap and reasonable, and they keep getting their rent raised. So it's like they're leaving because they cannot afford to live. And so I think that would bring immediate relief. Those things matter. The idea of city-run grocery stores, municipal food stores, I think is fantastic. And here's the thing. You could say, like, well, okay. Well, let's just say this. He's not done or said anything to make me think he's a socialist. He may be, but he's running as a social democrat, right? Which is basically what they are in Europe. There's nothing extremely radical about any of these positions, which is funny to see the billionaire class freaking out. But that said, we would know, whereas it took AOC a couple of years for many of us to realize, oh, she's not even going to force the friggin' vote, is she? Something she couldn't pass Medicare for all on her own, but she absolutely could have withheld her vote in that vote for speaker, and she didn't. It took a while to realize it. With Mamdani, you'll know pretty quickly whether he is going to do or fight for the things that he said he's going to fight for or not. And so 2-3 months in, if we don't have a rent freeze, well, I'll call bullshit on it, right? Because he can do that day one. I expect he'll do something within the first couple of weeks on that. The thing with city buses, he can't make them free on his own, but he sure as hell can fight for it. And the fact that it was such a decisive victory, he can say, this is where I'm putting my political capital on the things I ran for. I go to Albany and say, here's your mandate. By the way, Hochul, if you're running for re-election and you want votes in New York City, you need to give us the free bus service. He's going to expand child care. Those things, all of them will materially impact the lives of millions of workers in New York. He also believes, and I don't know his plan for it, in a $29 minimum wage. Now, just to hear someone run for office and say that, I mean, it needs to be 30 nationally. New York, probably 35. But just to hear that gives me hope that, okay, well, he understands this $15 nonsense. That was 10 years ago. So my hope comes from, you'll know pretty quickly whether or not he's serious about any of these things, because he does have a lot of flexibility and power on his own. I will say this, it's really important for me to say to those who think, oh, this is a game changer, it is for the people of New York, if these things come true. It is not representative of a changing of the Democratic Party. In fact, I thought it was the opposite. It was a repudiation of that establishment. So when people say, see, you can work within the Democratic Party, well, I don't know. If he was running for Congress, I would have a different take on it, because they always fall in line. We've seen that with progressives. When I see somebody who's got the executive power talking like, I've never seen any politician in New York talk like this. Cynthia Nixon, when she primaried, Cuomo did, she was pretty much in line with this kind of stuff. And I voted for her in the primary. I thought she was excellent. I also have to throw out a piece here. And if you want to jump in and jump on any of the things I said, go ahead. But it's a little personal for me. And I just want to say this publicly. I lost my aunt in April of 2020 because of Andrew Cuomo. My aunt was in the hospital being treated for something, broke her hip while in the hospital. She was going to the bathroom, fell. She's in her 70s. She broke her hip. They fixed the hip. They sent her to a nursing rehab at the end of March of 2020. And she never made it through April because that bastard Mario, well, his father too, Andrew Cuomo, sent, for those that don't understand the nursing home scandal, and I think it's important to lay out, he sent thousands of COVID sick, older, elderly patients in New York State out of hospitals because he closed hospitals. So we had a shortage of hospital beds in the ICU. He sent those folks, thousands of them, to nursing rehabs, where my aunt was, where she caught COVID, where she died alone with no family around her. Like, I hate that man. So I can't pretend I'm not elated, partly because he is such an evil, bad person. 15,000 at least adults died that way. And by the way, staff got sick. That first wave of COVID was very, very deadly, if people remember. It's not like I don't want to get into the COVID thing, but that first wave was very deadly. So like I was also personally, I definitely have it out for Cuomo. I think he's a horrible human. I was once in a room with him when he was signing a bill, and that was before all that happened. I didn't like him then. He's just, he seethes narcissism. So part of my happiness has to do with the fact that it was good to see him humiliated. That doesn't mean the Democratic Party has changed. It hasn't. But I think there's hope for his if he becomes mayor, for the people of New York. And I'll just, there's other points, but I'll just throw that out. I just think it's qualitatively different than Congress. Whereas like AOC in Congress could be like, I'm for Medicare for all, and like never do anything. I'm for a living wage and never do anything. If this guy wants a living wage in New York, he'll push for it. It will happen, or something close to 29. We'll know pretty soon, right? And so that's the difference to me. So I do have hope. But feel free to jump at that.
So I'll just add, Professor Zenkus, I don't know if you saw the video that came out today, but some of these things we can already point to show that we do already know. Like there's a video that came out today on Twitter where he says he's going to give, I think it's $800,000 to stop anti-Semitism.
I actually have the video set up ready to go.
Yeah, I just saw that video today. So it was after he won that he made this announcement.
So let's take a look at it.
And I know that Jewish New Yorkers, like Jewish Americans, are fearful in this moment of anti-Semitism. They're fearful, especially after the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado. They're fearful also in conversations that I have heard myself about life in this city. And I spoke to a Jewish man in Williamsburg not too many weeks ago who told me about the fact that he now locks the door that he used to close, that he used to keep open for years because of a fear of who may come in. I spoke to a friend of mine after October 7th who told me about going to his synagogue for Shabbat services and hearing the door open behind him and turning around with a tremor going up his back, not knowing who was walking in and what they wished for them. And ultimately, it's through the conversations I've had with Jewish New Yorkers that I have developed a proposal for the Department of Community Safety that would include an 800% increase in funding for hate crime prevention programs. Because ultimately, we cannot simply say that anti-Semitism has no home in this city or no place in this country. We have to do more than talk about it. We have to tackle it. And that's what we will do through this funding and through this commitment. We will root out bigotry across the 5 boroughs.
So that right there, that just came out. That's after he won. And we've continued to say on this show that there is no rise in anti-Semitism in this country. There's a rise in Islamophobia, which has been displayed towards Zohran. We've seen videos and things about that. So what he's basically, when I look at this guy, I see him trying to do this both sides thing, right? So he'll say that Israel should be one secular state where people have equal rights, and I think all of us on this platform support like a one state solution. But then he'll say this. So you see where funding is going to go. The point is that he's trying to appease the progressives and also the establishment Democrats. There's also the funding issue, which I didn't find out till yesterday after I was on George Galloway's show. Did you know that Zohran had a super PAC?
No. Yeah, I covered this with Shama yesterday.
No, that's what I want to watch that. I'm not a big fan of super PACs, and I don't typically want anyone who's got a super PAC to win. That said, I think I'm being pretty measured in why I think materially this could be good for New York. If I could just talk to the anti-Semitism funding thing, it sounds like he said he started out the conversation with the anti-Semitism piece, which is what people want to hear him say. However, he then said, I'm going to propose an 8-fold increase in hate crimes prevention, which I would assume and want to hold him to includes all hate crimes including Islamophobia. You can't just take one group and do it. It sounds like he's the latter, the piece that I said is what he's doing. I'd have to look into it.
But I have to push back here. He didn't mention other groups. He specified.
No, he didn't. He should have.
Right. He specified anti-Semitism. So don't forget, there was an anti-Asian hate crime bill that was passed in Congress under the Biden administration. And then they tried to come back later and say, well, that includes everybody. But you didn't say everybody. So
but he said hate crimes prevention. And I know that he has that, and it is inclusive. So just from what the city does, I know they already have that. It doesn't sound like he wants to do something different. He wants to increase funding, and it sounds like he's couching it. And I mean, I'm not making an excuse for how he's saying it. He's couching it under the banner of anti-Semitism, because that's what the people who, because if he doesn't, something will happen and they won't let him be there. That's what I'm guessing. I think, I don't defend that.
But that's the point I think that we're trying to make, is that, again, he's trying to play the same game that like AOC played when she conflated anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism in that webinar, and basically was schooling people about how, no, you're anti-Semitic if you do this, da-da-da. So he's trying to appease the people he should not be trying to appease.
That, though.
But
I don't like how he's couching it, but I don't think it's the same. She voted for that legislation, which is anti-free speech and anti-constitutional.
Right, but this was before her vote for that legislation when she held the webinar. The point is, he's trying to appease the corporate Democrats, and he's also trying to appease the progressives at the same time. So that what I'm saying is he's already
so progressive. That's my thing. Like, so he's right now. He did write the bill. He was the original sponsor of a bill called Not on Our Dime in New York State. Do you know that bill?
Right, but that was as an assemblyman. And I'm saying this because I had this experience here where a lot of people know Ayanna Pressley. Ayanna Pressley, before she was a congresswoman, she was a city councilor, and she was even more progressive and got a lot of things accomplished as a city councilor than as a congressperson. But the moment that she moved up into Congress, she moved along to appease the corporate Democrat, the establishment side, and Democrat leadership. So you don't see her the way that she was before. I'll give it a more fair comparison. Mayor Michelle Wu in Boston ran on a lot of these progressive issues that Zohran is running on. And the moment that she won, all those things went by the wayside. The number one thing that she ran on was the housing issue. She has continued to push people out of their neighborhoods. So I've seen this before. And that's the thing. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think we all despise Andrew Cuomo. I think all of us despise Andrew Cuomo. Yeah. He definitely need to lose. But I am very concerned when I'm seeing people online get so excited about Zohran the same way they did about AOC. And these things need to be discussed, like that this guy is connected to Peter Thiel money. We need to talk about that he does have a super PAC that needs to be discussed. Why did he delete his tweet about defunding the police? So we're seeing some of the same type of behavior, play out. And then one more thing I want to share, and then I'm going to pass it to JB as well. This is another thing that needs to be discussed, in particular with these DSA style candidates. And that's this. So Zohran, he won, but he did not win the majority of Black voters. And this has been a recurring issue within the progressive movement, where they are not getting the Black community, even though the policies that they're campaigning on would help the Black community. And the reason why this is happening is because you cannot show up in the neighborhood when you are running for office. So the reason why Andrew Cuomo, for people who don't understand, I think the reason why Andrew Cuomo received the majority of Black votes is because Black people in those neighborhoods were used to seeing him. He's been around even before his father been around, even before he was campaigning. Then they see Zohran and it's like, oh, where have you been? You know us now because you're campaigning. So the demographics that Zohran won, which are predominantly white and Asian voters, these are some of the same people that those Black communities have complained that they have pushed out of their neighborhoods. So this is a problem within the progressive movement, and this is a primary. But coming in the general election, I can see Eric Adams, as crazy and corrupt as he is, I can see him winning mayor again because of this reason alone. These progressive candidates are not making inroads in working class Black communities, and that is why when they run, they don't get the majority of that vote. So I think what we saw right now, particularly in the primary, I think that's going to be very different in the general. I think a lot of those Black voters who voted for Cuomo are going to vote for Eric Adams. And so that's just something that needs to be said. You cannot just engage with the white progressives, and which is basically DSA, the white progressive and the Asian progressives, and say, this is how, I'm going to win. Like, you cannot continue to overlook the Black communities. And I will die on that hill. This is something that really frustrates me, that these communities are ignored by the candidates that are running on these policies that would greatly benefit those communities.
Yeah. And so, when it comes to one of my issues as well is that as far as, for instance, he talks about, the police, like, for instance, what Sabi just alluded to, where he deleted his tweet about defunding the police. My question is like, when, if he does become mayor, then how will he treat people who engage in civil disobedience in New York? Because the thing is, like, we will know how he operates by how NYPD operates. And we know that NYPD disproportionately, they, do arrests and police brutality against people who are minorities. And so how will he square that circle as well? Because ultimately, if he's not going to, lead in a way where it's just towards restorative justice, then, was he just blowing smoke up our hinds, when it comes to, wanting to be more for working class people, especially when it comes to the rights and the free speech of the people in the area. That's one of the concerns. And also, as far as getting a lot of these policies done, he would also have to get past city council as well, and so city council is really the legislative body. So it's like, how will he be able to get some of these approvals past city council in order to be able to do this for the people as well? And my question is if he ran as third party or independent, he could have skipped the entire Democratic primary. Now, granted, would that still give him a better chance of winning? That remains to be seen. But at the same time, it's, he's still running in a party that greenlit a modern day Holocaust. And so that also gives me pause as well. And I just want to say this as well, because this was in my mind when you were speaking earlier. I do want to extend my condolences out to you about your aunt. Nobody should ever have to go through that. And I am deeply sorry to hear about that as well. And so while I am skeptical about Zohran Mamdani, I also am happy to see somebody like Andrew Cuomo, get kicked to the curb. But at the same time, I still do have a lot of my concerns, as been laid out by people like Sabi and Nick. Nick also laid out yesterday about how Working Families Party is also funded by George Soros, which, George Soros is out and out Zionist as well. And so that money, too much is given, much is required. And so this is another thing that actually gives me pause and concern for people like Zohran Mamdani.
Could I jump in before Nick does real quick, just so I don't forget? Is that okay, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Sure.
Just as far as the police thing, I was just on the phone with a friend yesterday, and one of the things that I said was, we will know pretty quick what the police force under a Mamdani administration will look like by who he picks as commissioner. So the police commissioner, for those that don't know, is a civilian post. You almost always, it's a former cop, but you can't currently be a cop and be in it. So who he picks for commissioner, the commissioner in New York has a ton of power. So he could say any cop that the commissioner can, like if you do a stop and frisk, which in New York was a huge problem and disproportionately, it was almost 100% targeted at black and brown people, mostly black people in poor areas in New York. A commissioner could say any cop that does that will be disciplined. There's a lot of leeway. Who Mamdani picks, as like I'm saying, in the first 2 months, we're going to know pretty quickly where things are at, and we'll know by the protests, because a lot of people I know, I just talked to friends of mine in Astoria, and they've been to these protests against the genocide, for Palestine, against the apartheid. And the police have been horrendous. I met these folks down at Occupy Wall Street, and so that was 14 years ago, almost. And the NYPD then, because I knew somebody in the DA's office then, and they said, I don't know why, but we were given the order to throw the book at you guys. That, I have heard again, is what's happening, but worse, with pro-Palestine protests. Being treated horribly on the streets, being physically abused, being arrested. I wouldn't expect it to immediately stop, but we would have to see a marked difference to know whether or not the NYPD is going to be any different under that administration. And by the way, the mayor has the power. So there would be no excuses. And also the way they treat communities of color, specifically the black communities, because, we've got Ramarley Graham here. We've got Eric Garner. There's a long list of people murdered by the NYPD where no justice was had. So I'm going to be looking at his commissioner pick to see if it's going to be more of the same or a game changer, because he has that power.
Okay. Nick, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I covered a lot of this yesterday. I'm not a New Yorker. I'm more focused on human rights, foreign policy. I'm simply done with the two-party duopoly. People are I already see it now. I already seeing people using Zohran as a tranquilizing drug. Like, Zohran is not going to free Palestine, guys. And you should not be celebrity worshiping this guy, even if you support him. Like, you should be putting massive pressure on this guy, even if you like Zohran Mamdani. But I'm done supporting Democrats. I'm done supporting these people who are running using the same strategy over and over again. Because I am proposing to people, instead of being disappointed by politicians, let them prove you wrong for once. Let them prove you wrong for once. Every single progressive Democrat, every single one of them who won elections have sold out. Name one progressive Democrat who didn't sell out. Cori Bush was running in a community that needed money, and this motherfucker sent billions to Nazis in Ukraine. You know what I mean? So if you have Cuomo derangement syndrome in New York, I get it, man. That's not my game. I'm not in New York. That's not my struggle. But I'm telling people just where I stand. I'm not getting my faith up for a politician. Why should we? Let them prove us wrong. Another reason why I'm not will ever get on board for these projects anymore. Where is Zohran and his movement? Where are DSA and his movement supporting mutual aid organizations? Will Zohran Mamdani, will he share our mutual aid program that we have going next month with the chairman? Hey, heads up. Zohran, if you want my support, you can share me and Rome's mutual aid that we're doing with the chairman next month. How about that, guys? If he does that, I open up the idea. I bet you he won't. I bet you he won't support Shama Sawant, who's running against a genocidal Democrat. And there's already a lot of DSA people making excuses on why they're not supporting Shama Sawant. So if Zohran and his movement don't support RBN Mutual Aid, if they don't support Shama Sawant because we are not Democrats, what does that tell you? If Zohran does not endorse Shama Sawant, if his team go all in to help Sharma win, that tells you they are organizing based on who's a Democrat or not. So how about we stop volunteering our time for them and let them come to us for once? I'm tired of begging them to share our mutual aid. How many of them shared our General Strike Summit? How many of these people helping Sabby and Boston Mutual Aid? Why do we got to go to them? We are right here. RBN is right here. He ain't reached out to RBN. So why should I support him? But once again, I'm not a New Yorker. So if you're a New Yorker, you can make whatever decision you think is best. I'm going to tell you guys my perspective. My perspective is I have no reason to support any politician unless they're knocking on my door. They're like, hey, man, I see what you're doing with the chairman. Hey, I see you doing an event with Fred Hampton Jr. I want to help you out. If they do that, I'm like, man, this guy must be legit. Yeah. But not only do they not do that, they don't share none of our events. They want nothing to do with us. And I'm talking about the entire progressive media apparatus. You know what I see him doing, though? He's taking selfies with Amber Vigeland. He budded. Like, so I'm waiting to join us. I'm not joining them. That's why I'm sharing my perspective. If you're in New York, make whatever decision you think is best. I'm just telling you personally, I'm out. I'm 30 years old. I've been through this countless times. Not a single person. I was out after Cori Bush. Cori Bush was as legit as it comes. The second that Cori Bush showed herself to be a sellout, I was like, all right, you guys do what you want. Because obviously, what does my opinion even matter? I'm in Kansas City. If you're in New York, do what you want. But I'm not. People are like, why are you not supporting Zohran? Why are you not excited? Why should I be excited? Let him prove us wrong. Let him show up at our events. And one more thing I'm saying, I'll pass you, Zenkus, because I'm not going after you. I'm just sharing my point of view. You know what I mean?
I knew what I was walking into today.
Yeah,
I got a thick skin. I could take it, and I think this stuff needs to be aired out. And like, I'm always checking my privilege, and if I say something that is coming from that place, feel free to be like, all right, yeah, I get it. And so, I don't disagree with anything you said. And I absolutely do have Cuomo derangement syndrome. I mean, I admit it. I viscerally hate that man. More than just those that aren't in New York who just...
I have Jim Clyburn derangement syndrome. I'm not mad at it. To me, there's nothing wrong with hating a politician. I would never get mad at a New Yorker for hating Cuomo.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never get upset.
So if like Brad Lander, who cross-endorsed Mamdani, which was a brilliant political move, whoever thought of that, if Brad Lander had been the winner, even though I know he's more of a normie politician, I would still be happy because Cuomo is defeated by somebody who sometimes says progressive things. But I want to piggyback on the thing you said about celebrity. That matters to me. I really think no politician should ever be a celebrity. And, look, the guy's young. He's good looking. He's a good talker, and he's got a good social media team. But that's the.
You see the people posting pictures of his wife, like, oh my God, look at his stunning wife. Like this kind of stuff is already making my skin crawl.
Yeah, I haven't. I actually don't even know what she looks like because I just don't care about that shit. But that's upsetting.
I guess I'm too online.
I don't want him to be a celebrity, and I do think you're absolutely right. Everybody here in saying. New Yorkers, the people that helped him, like I know people who've been involved with civil disobedience who jumped on his campaign too, and they were like, "Look, we have no illusions, and we need to hold him to the fire." And like you said about what's her first name, Mayor Wu, is it Erica? And so
Michelle.
I'm sorry, Michelle Wu, saying your wrong name, and Erica Wu, if you're out there. Mixing you up with her, but I feel like what do we have to keep pressure on him. My expectation, and if anybody on his team sees this, and my guess is there are people on his team that are watching independent media and know who RBN is. Yes, absolutely. Your strategy, not just your strategy, but show up in Black communities and do a listening tour. Listen to what people's needs are. Because you live in a small part of the city in Queens, you need to hear what's going on in other parts. And what do they want you to do? You were asking to be hired by them. You need to listen to them. So absolutely with that. And we need to keep pressure on him and say the things you can do without the city council and that you can do right away. We want to see that. I think there needs to be public discussion on the point I made about the police commissioner. We need to see a change in the NYPD. And that change can happen, right? I do like that he's talking about hiring social workers, which is really what defund the police was. Take money from police budgets, use it to fund people who better off working with addicted people, with homeless, unhoused people, with people with mental illness. Absolutely, that needs to happen. What's really important is those folks, because I'm in the social work field, cannot be employed under the NYPD umbrella. They need to be completely separate from that culture, right? And so that's important. If they go like, oh, we're going to raise the police budget and hire social workers to work with no, those social workers have to be a separate organization. And that's vitally important, because the culture in police culture is not social work culture. And you cannot have those two working together that way. It's got to be separate. But I do think we need to put pressure on them. And yeah, the celebrity thing is unfortunate and disappointing. I don't know if
I misspoke. I meant people was like posting a picture of his wife. That's what I meant to say. I don't know if I misspoke. But people were posting pictures of his wife. Like his wife is he's like the celebrity culture around him is concerning. And the only thing I want to say, because I'm not honestly that invested, like you guys are not gonna see me cover this that often because I'm not really that invested in electoral politics, especially like a mayor race. But I really hope that this doesn't become a tranquilizing drug. I hope people don't think that like any hero that's gonna come through electoral politics gonna create some shock. No, you can't have any shortcut for a movement, and that's what all RBN always been about. And that's what made clear to me after I made that mistake before. And I've been older than now. I made that mistake with Obama and Bernie. So I'm just here to teach the next generation that may make the same mistake. Don't think any person is going to come and save you. You organize your own organizations. You have a plan for how you're going to engage the system. And if these people not showing up to support you, that says a lot. You know what I mean? That's what I learned a lot moving in this last week. Me and Savvy, JB, we talk about this all the time. We know who's there. We know who's there supporting the grassroots and who not. You learn who moves real and not. I just learned. And people will learn once as they continue to move. And you guys will see how Zohran move. Because I promise you guys, I want him to pretty much, but I promise you, he's not doing anything for the grassroots. He's done. Like, he's about to be checked out. He's not going to be organized. Like, do you guys think he's going to be organizing on the ground with mutual aid, helping people like Shaman? We see, but I think that should be your main focus, is figure out what you can do for the movement, not just hoping politicians will bail you out, right? But I understand your perspective, Zenkus. I understand New Yorkers. I don't want to shame the working class in their decisions here. I'm just sharing my perspective. We've seen this game before, and I feel like we need to find different ways to move. That's just my opinion.
Well, and also too, I just wanted to add, again, looking at the data, what is very telling, and this is different from Bernie's campaign, right? I know Bernie was presidential, I get it, but this is different. Again, the working class communities largely voted for Andrew Cuomo. And again, I'm just looking at the data right here. Largely voted for Andrew Cuomo instead of voting for the candidate that was running on policies for the working class. And again, I think this says something to that DSA space, which again, and I'm just telling you from experience, there's DSA chapters all over the country, and they all seem to be very similar, where it's consistent of people who are pretty much, for the most part, academic or affluent in some way, so to speak. So there's a disconnect there, because let's all remember that Bernie was able to get a lot of support from working class people. So that's what I have a question about, Professor Zenkus. Why did that happen? Like, why is it that I'm looking at the places that he dominated in, middle class and affluent, and why is it that Andrew Cuomo dominated in the working class neighborhoods?
Mostly what I'm hearing, and like, I don't know, but mostly what I'm hearing, and I think that's an important point and something his team needs to pay attention to. He really, I'm trying to think of when I first heard of him, but the name recognition thing for people that weren't engaged in the mayoral race is they know Cuomo. Some of them may know Lander. A lot didn't know Mamdani. But I also would think this also reflects, raises the question for me, did your team go to those neighborhoods? Because if you did, they would know you. I will say with the Black communities, and I'm not looking at your data set, but he came in second. So he outperformed what was expected of him. But that to me just says there's more work to be done. And you can't, just because New York is a Democrat city and the Democrat is always expected to, well, Bloomberg won as a Republican and so did Giuliani. But basically, at this point, it's expected he'll win because the Republican is Curtis Sliwa. If you folks, I'm not sure if people out there know him, he's a whack job and he's going to get very few votes. I agree with Sabby. I wouldn't be shocked if Adams won because he also can say, look, I was railroaded. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And he is also connected with the Black community. So I think Zohran has work to do. It isn't just wait to become mayor, you're going to win this. It's what will you do between now and November? You've got months. It's June. You've got July, August, September, and October. That's 4 months to work with communities and to show who you're going to be. So I think it matters, and I think his team needs to be listening.
Yeah, here's that data, the data set here, right? So for the Black community, Cuomo got plus 18. And you can see Mamdani mainly won the white community plus 5, Hispanic plus 6, Asian plus 15. But even when you look at income, Cuomo gets plus 13 for lower income, and Mamdani gets plus 10 for middle income, and then Mamdani gets plus 13 for higher income. So again, like there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, and it wasn't because Cuomo did anything good. It's just
exactly that's what I'm saying. There's a disconnect. So I'm curious if his team, if Mamdani's team went to those neighborhoods, because I just, to me, that don't make any sense. These policies would greatly benefit people in the lower income bracket.
I do believe they had 50,000 volunteers. So the people went all over. But did the candidate go and do town halls and go? I mean, you got to go to churches. You got to go to community centers. You got to stand on street corners and talk to people. So I think that's the challenge, because obviously if they did some of it, they need to do more. If they didn't do any, they have to start, because you need to listen to what the needs are of the people in the places that didn't vote for you. I'm 100% with you. So that's a task for them to show up. I also get tempering my optimism. Maybe because my therapist is on vacation, I asked Sabby if I could come on and talk about this just so I could be tempered a little, because I have to say, I really was excited. But I also don't want to underestimate, even though the Democratic machine will try to swallow this victory up and somehow spin it to make them look better, and it doesn't. I think this was a big middle finger to Chuck Schumer, a big middle finger to the establishment, because he shouldn't have won.
And Chuck Schumer is congratulating him, by the way.
They have.
I do think this is a good propaganda win, like you said, Zenkus. And I made fun of the Zionists who made this election a referendum about Zionism. They got blown the fuck out. I said many times before, I'm willing to take advantage of any situation in order to get a propaganda win from my side. So that, to me, that's the only value of, like, I laugh at the Zionists and did it, because I do think that is true, like the propaganda win. And it's a good sign that people's consciousness is shifting.
Yeah, and I also think with the billionaires, I mean, Bill Ackman. I always mix it up.
Ackman, yes.
Ackman, yeah. He's more vocal, but there's other ones, they're like, we're going to leave, and this is bad. And Bill Ackman wrote, I don't know if anyone saw his tweet today. It was huge, long. It was like the limit of how many words you can tweet, hundreds and hundreds. And he is like, well, because for those that don't know, the deadline to run as an independent is passed. That was May 27th in New York. You cannot do that. You can't enter the race as an indie now. It would have to be write-in, and Bill Ackman is actually out there saying, we need a candidate to write in. But watching them squirm like this, jumping on what Nick said, absolutely is pleasurable for me, because they're horrible people. And I also would hope that one of the reverberations from this positively nationally, and we'll see if it happens, is saying I don't want children to blow up in Palestine, saying I want the people of the West Bank and Gaza to have self-determination. The genocide needs to stop. All of those things can no longer be construed as or accused to be anti-Semitic, because New York City has the highest Jewish population of any city outside of Tel Aviv. And a lot of my Jewish friends voted for Mamdani.
You guys see this on Zenkus? On that thought, I want to share this for you guys. I saw this before we went live. Like the New York Times has now discovered that not all Jewish people don't support genocide. Like, these are the dumb propagandists that will call you anti-Semitic because you don't support Israel, because they are the biggest anti-Semites in the world. They believe that every single Jewish person is loyal to Israel.
Yep.
That's why these liberals are shouting, wait, what, a Jewish person? A Jewish person voting for a Muslim? How is that possible? They legitimately don't understand this. Look, I want you guys can respond. I just want to bring this up. I want to show you guys this. Mamdani's success spotlights a deepening rupture among U.S. Jews. And so you guys see how I don't really care about this electoral process, but I will use it as a way to score propaganda wins against the ruling class. Look at their mindset. While Zohran won over some Jewish supporters, other Jewish Democrats suggested that concerns about their community's safety are being dismissed in a movement in a city they helped build. Look at the New York Times trying to create a divide among Jewish people. How is this not viewed as massively disgusting? The fact that they did this. Do you guys want to respond to this? I just thought this was funny, and I think kind of highlights what Zenkus, what you were just saying about the Jewish people who did support Zohran, right?
Lots did. I mean, he won with a massive majority in the city of all people. So yeah, that can't be said anymore. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I find it to be interesting, and it's like somebody who has policies that they agree with. Of course, Jewish people would vote for a Muslim if they have the policies that they would agree with. I mean, and of course, Muslims would vote for a Jewish person that they have agreement with, especially ones that do not believe, or at least they say they don't believe in Zionism. They want, a one-state solution. And of course, because quiet as is kept, some of them may not know, but back then, before the Nakba, Jewish people and Muslims used to live in peace in Palestine. Wow. And so that trend still continues. It's just some people want to make it seem like they're against each other, when in fact, they've always been united for centuries before that. It's just the new, genocidal settler colonial state doesn't want you to believe that.
When I try to look for the overlap of what we've said here today, and like I did, I just messaged Savvy. I do have to jump off because I have something I need to also jump onto. But I'm thankful for the time. The overlap here is that I think Nick put it well, saying the propaganda wins are important to at least relish in the moment. And I think we need to, just understand the limits of what that means, but also celebrate just briefly that went our way. And it's what we knew, that most people find the genocide of Palestinians abhorrent, right? It's not a radical position. It's not an anti-Semitic position. It's a human position, right? And so that was one piece that I consider mild working class programs like free transportation. We should have had that 20 years ago. But like that 5 city run grocery stores, I got people in my comments saying things like, this is going to put the private grocers out of business. There's over 15,000 private grocery stores in New York. 5 city-owned stores are not going to put them out of business. It will not happen. We already have food deserts, and that's one of the problems. But these are mild solutions. I'm really excited, and I want to see over the next few months, does he talk about that $29 wage now that he's in the general? because I will hold him to it. Absolutely. I need to hear it spoken. Don't just say we're going to if I start hearing him say, well, we're going to raise the minimum wage, that I know will be AOC's influence. One positive, and I messaged Sabby on this, was in his victory speech, he thanked everybody. He did not thank Bernie and AOC, and I was relieved to hear that, because Bernie did the bare minimum. He just did a commercial endorsement. I'm glad he did, but it was way late. And AOC waited and waited and waited to jump in. We needed her out on the street campaigning. She is popular no matter what we think of her. She needed to be out campaigning weeks before that. So I'm glad he didn't thank them, but we'll see what happens, I guess. Materially, I hope there's relief for New Yorkers, because it is unsustainable if there isn't. There'll be no one to work in these stores. I don't care how many AI robots they come up with. New York is changing, and it's not for the better. And it's like, this is our last lifeline.
Mm-hmm. All right. So with that being said, I know you have to get going. You have a hard out as well, Professor Zenkus. So if you could let people know where they can find you and what you have coming up next.
Don't find me. You're just going to be disappointed with some of my posts. But yeah, no, fine. Fight with me. Yell at me. Do whatever. So yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm not teaching this summer, so that's not until the fall. Doing some work with my community, and just working with some advocacy organizations around the queer issue, because I have friends that are like, people's lives are on the line. I know it's a whole other subject. But, oh yeah, that was one thing that at least he's positive on that. But again, we'll see what happens. It's a frightening time. And also, we'll see what happens. Oh, one quick thing. I hear, and we should keep our eyes out for this, there's going to be I saw some advertisements on X for this, another No Kings rally, like all the local ones. I saw a thing, I'll send it to you guys in the chat, on July 4th. I don't know if people heard about it, but when you look at all the things they talk about, they don't mention the military budget, they don't mention Gaza, they don't mention Iran. So I've made up a prototype of a sign that says, no genocide in Gaza, no war with Iran, no deportations, no kings. And I want to see how long they let me stand with them if they do this by me, because they did one locally and I didn't go to it last time. But I can't believe that they're doing that again and just completely leaving out all military, foreign policy, and genocide issues.
I think that's paid for by the Walton family.
Of course,
I think that's why. Yeah.
Well, good. Let's go disrupt them and just stand there with the sign, because genocide is bad. If we can't agree on that, we got some problems. Other than that, local organizing, and keep going with your mutual aid. It's amazing. And when I teach in the fall, I'm going to want to do a section on mutual aid. Maybe one or more of you would like to come on, even by Zoom, and just do some teaching on for my students. That would be wonderful.
That'd be dope.
Cool.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Any opportunity to spread information on mutual aid is appreciated.
Yeah, it's important. It's vitally important. So thanks for all you guys do. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on, Professor.
All right.
See you later.
Love you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm. All right, and also Sabs, I think you have a hard out at 6:30, so I want to give you the floor to talk about what you're going to be doing tonight on your show as well.
So a lot of things broke today in the Middle East, a lot of breaking news. So Garland Nixon and Scott Ritter are going to be coming on tonight, and we're going to break down the breaking news stories about what has happened in the Middle East just today. So like I told you guys, like a lot has been happening, and then I have a couple of other news stories to cover, and then we'll do call in after the show.
Okay, burning midnight oil, Sabs. So as far as I think it was a productive conversation. I still have my concerns. I'll be honest with you, I still don't trust him. I'm just holding my breath.
I don't think we should trust any politician.
No.
I just don't think you should trust a politician, period.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like some of his policies, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's like a no duh. Yeah, sure.
But, yeah. I gotta head out soon too. But I do want to show you guys this. Thank you for joining us, Savvy. Make sure I hope you have a good show. I just want to share this quickly because it's not even a long story, but this is just another example of why you don't trust politicians. So this is my one mini story I'm gonna do for the roundtable. It's not gonna be long because I gotta head out here soon. But you guys remember how they said there was gonna be mass deportations? You're not getting no mass deportations, and Trump is not breaking with NATO. These are things I predicted way before Donald Trump got elected. So I want you guys to react to this. Look. Trump embraces NATO security alliance after years of attacks. And Donald Trump actually accomplished expanding NATO, increased the funding for NATO, and now he's directly supporting the Ukraine war. So once again, MAGA, no refunds. This is what happens when you support the duopoly. And what did I say, Sabin and JB? I told you guys for years, I did not expect this reality game show host to end any of these conflicts. Look, Trump doesn't rule out sending Ukraine more Patriot missiles after meeting with Zelensky. So if there's any message that you guys can take from me, don't trust any of these politicians. They will sell you out. So that's the only thing I had covered. JB, anything else you have? Any other story? We can wrap here. I know Sabby got to leave. Anything else you have, JB?
So if you guys need to leave, you guys can close out. I just have to make sure to read the chats and the super chats and stuff like that before we go. But yeah, so take care, Sabs. But yes, we have to make sure to read the chats before we head out. And then
I'll stay for super chats. I'll stay for super chats.
Yeah. Okay. And then also do the Patreon shout out before we leave. So I'm just going to cover super chats due to the sake of time. But it's good to see everybody that's inside the chat. So we have the first one. Please make sure to like the stream as well. We have this from Roger Meadows, says MTA completely owned by New York State. Thank you very much to Roger Meadows for that. Also, this one by Roger, he says New York State suggested a minimum wage of $44.77, and in New York City, $52.92. That's actually from the Outer Reach program from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, which I already have primed up and ready to go.
I can't wait till you guys. Sorry, JB, but on the minimum wage thing, I can't wait till you guys see my conversation with Jake Shields. Once again, who is classified as far right. He was explaining how he thinks the minimum wage needs to be increased, how workers, because I explained to him, I think all work should be dignified. These are things that have mass appeal, even on people on the right. But sorry, go ahead, JB.
No, sure. That's a good point. And so that's a unifying thing. And so if you guys can see here from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, is $44.77 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in New York State. And then it goes higher even in New York City. So if you take a look here, it actually shares like some of what it has to be, like the breakdown here. Talks about that they have a $15 an hour minimum wage. So the working minimum wage is $15 an hour. And so you need to work 104 hours just to afford a 1-bedroom rental home at fair market value in the state. So that's how expensive New York is. New York is literally one of the most expensive states in the country. I think it's number 3 or number 2. So therefore, a lot of people realize how expensive it really is, but I just want to make sure to show that. Thank you very much for that, Roger. Roger also continues, says, if you have time, put something in JB DM of NYPD. I unfortunately don't really have time, but of course, NYPD, we also have to focus on would Zohran Mamdani also support, ending qualified immunity for police officers and all elected officials, at least within the city of New York, right? Because then that takes away that immunity. So if in case or when, I should say, they do something wrong, they can be held civilly liable for it, and they could be sued without it having to come from the taxpayers. I think that is also a worthwhile thing for somebody like a Zohran Mamdani to do. But will he have the guts to be able to also push for something like that? That remains to be seen.
Yeah. And once again, this is local politics, man. Like, if you're in New York, even if you like this guy, you should not be celebrity worshiping him. You need to be using whatever organization you're part of, whatever political reach you have, to be putting massive pressure on this guy. Not just doing nonstop propaganda for him. Put pressure on him. Make him follow his demands. Don't make him think he's above criticism.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think.
Yep. There's some tips on Rockman here. Let me see. We have this from Roger. He said, "Thank you very much." He said, "Nick, you don't have to wait for the Zionists are out there always out of the way to get things done. You can begin in your own backyard. A robust domestic policy autocorrects your foreign policy. A robust state policy forces nationals to comply. Provide all things that they use to lure 18 to 35-year-olds into the war machine by offering those same through citizen ballot initiative, free college, Medicare for all, decommodified housing, and vocation apprenticeship program." He said, "Professor, it's okay to say, I just want Cuomo to lose. That's what I do. At the end of the day, he's still a Democrat. The New York Public Banking Act, which he has as state assembly lawmaker, has been a co-sponsor of what allowed municipalities like New York City to charter their own public bank. The actual practical power of New York City mayor, yes, is limited. Professor got that right. The power that they do have, like he said, is leveraged through the bully pulpit. He can use that leverage to get Albany to pass New York Public Bank Act. We could use that leverage with New York City and have a public bank to raise revenue for infrastructure projects like transportation, high-speed public broadband, water, and decommodified housing," what his focus is. So thank you very much for that on the Rockfin, Roger. Let me check to see if we have any Rumble rants as well. I want to see if we have any of that. Yes, we do have Rumble rants, and so we will be getting to that. Let me see. Okay, we have one Rumble rant. All right, and I'm going to share the screen. And Nick is going to like this one. All right, let's get into it. All right, Rumble rant from They Super Propaganda says, "Socialism is the answer." All right, thank you so very much for that, Super Propaganda from the Rumble side. All right, so as far as that, just wanted to do this one. And from Joey Peltier says, "Land Back slogan comes from the Land Back campaign out of the nonprofit NDN Collective and adopted by the Honor of Earth organization as a program." Thank you very much for that, Joey Peltier. Also say a big hello to your uncle for us as well. Much love to you guys out there. All right, Nick, about to head out. Any last words?
I got nothing. Make sure you guys check out. I gotta take a break, man. I've been doing a lot of content recently. Make sure you got. I'm gonna release probably. I'm gonna probably premiere my conversation with Jake Shields. I think he said it'll come out Sunday, so I might premiere it on Monday or something like that. Also had Dr. CBS coming out on RBN on Monday. We love Dr. CBS. She's extremely based, and I also have a show with DDG on Wednesday. I even with the conversation with Shama Sawan for us to have a new series. Because, you know, I got all these banger series that on RBN. We got the Post Duopoly show. We have RBN Roundtable. I got my show with DDG. I got my show with the Hotspot Brothers, the Nico House. Now I'm gonna have another show with Shama Sawan. So, you know, it's banger after banger on RBN. So a lot of content coming up. I'll be back next week for sure.
All right. And while we're on our way out, just want to give a big thank you to all of the patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, we would not be able to do the work that we do. Here at RBN, we don't just try to talk the talk, but we try to walk the walk. This is why we push mutual aid and building dual power as a group. This is why we do the same things ourselves in our respective cities. So you guys allow us to be able to deliver not just the news, but also to encourage people to realize their own power as workers within this country. You guys need to know and realize that, and also take power back for yourselves. We realize that no politician is going to be our savior. No, even if they are well-meaning, even if they're outside the duopoly, we know that ultimately it is about the grassroots that's really going to push for a real equal and equitable system. And that can only be done through people. If you want to see a hero, look in the mirror and then also look at your neighbor across the way. These are going to be the heroes, yourself and the people around you. So thank you very much for supporting the channel. And with that, we're heading on out. I will be live tomorrow evening. I will be having on Kevin Ronka from Right Brain Studios. We're going to be talking about a little bit about revolutionary strategy. So we're going to be talking about that. And you guys are going to want to stay for that live stream because that live stream will not be up. It will not stay up once we finish the live stream. That's how important it is. And that live stream will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night on my channel. So if you guys would like to, you guys can always just click on my icon and then you guys can get to my channel there. Okay. And also Sunday is my birthday. So I will be live for the JB show. So if you guys would like to, you guys can come by on RBN and we'll cover news stories. And also it's my birthday. So, all right. Now, everybody, take care and have yourself a great day. Thank you to Professor Zenkus for joining us for this important discussion. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. And of course, always, always, always believe in the people and question politicians. I love you guys for watching. Forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.